Hello, and welcome to Bible Stories. I'm Jonas.
And I'm Victor.
And today we'll be looking at the story of God promises Abram. It's a big one, going from Genesis 11, verse 27, all the way to chapter 15, verse 6. And we'll be, once again, splitting this English and Spanish. We'll be doing English first, Spanish second. Let's start. Terah took Abram his son, and let the son of Haran his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went out together from Ur of the Chaldeans, in order to enter the land of Canaan. And they went as far as Haran, and settled there. For the Lord told Abram, Go forth from your country, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land which I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and so you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you will curse, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. God blessed Abram and his nephew Lot with large flocks and herds. The land could not sustain them close to one another. So Abram said to Lot, Please let there be no strife between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. High above the valley floor, Abram and Lot discussed their positions. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If to the left, then I will go to the right, or if to the right, then I will go to the left. Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the valley of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. So Lot chose for himself all the valley of the Jordan, and Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they separated from each other. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward, for all the land which you see, I will give it to you and to your descendants forever. The Jordan Valley was a wealthy area, and it was invaded by fierce warriors. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he led out his trained men, born in his house, 318, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Abram brought back Lot, the captive people, and their possessions. The king of Salem met Abram and blessed him. Blessed be Abram of God Most High, professor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. He gave him a tenth of all. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not fear, Abram. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great. And he took him outside and said, Now look toward the heavens, and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So shall your descendants be. Then he believed in the Lord, and he reckoned it to him as righteousness. And that is the story of Abraham and his promise. God's promise to Abraham. It's a big one. So what do we got here?
Lots of interesting things happening. This is a big commitment because traveling back then was a big deal.
Yeah.
And going from the place he knew to a totally different place, didn't even know about it. He says, I'll show you the place. How many times do we set out on a journey and don't know where we're going?
Yeah.
And wasn't he in his 70s or 80s?
He was getting pretty old, I think, but not quite as old as he was later on. But yeah, he was not a young chicken for sure. Yeah, so this was a lot of faith on his part to do this.
Trusting God.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes nowadays, even if we're just going to take a short trip, we get Google Maps or
And see.
or even if you're going to go somewhere out of town,
Yeah.
you do like a little research about the town and where you're going to be at.
Right.
And
Here
here
you're
you
gonna stay
just,
tonight.
right?
Yeah.
How many stars does it have?
And so Abram only turns into Abraham later on, right? So
But
that's
God changes his name later. That's coming up.
coming up in the next one.
Right.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I thought it was interesting that Lot, who is the nephew, and I know he's younger, but he looked to see and found that Jordan had everything that he wanted, that was well watered and looked the best land, so he chose that instead of, we're taught that we should let others have the best. Think about others first.
Yeah.
But I know he was younger. He was the nephew, so
So this was a little bit. It was a little difficult for me to follow because I have like the Spanish version in front of me. But
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to. So after Lot picked the area that had the Jordan, and then Abraham got the other part. Lot was the one that was eventually he was conquered.
He was captured.
He was captured.
The city that was living in that area was attacked by 5 different kings, and they took all of the people in the city that he was at captive. So then Abram went out and rescued him and all those people.
and his wives and children, everyone.
Yeah, they were all captured, and when they captured them, however, they also, when you went to war with someone, whatever they had, and those people they would take all their possessions too. So when Lot was captured and Abraham goes out to rescue them, then they took all of the possessions that the kings had brought with them, the wealth and so on. That's why it talks about that afterwards they were met by, and this story didn't tell us his name, but the Bible tells us the name is Melchizedek. Melchizedek was the king that met them. He was not one of the warring kings. He was king of Salem, which means peace. But he was also a priest of the Most High God. And Abraham gave him a tenth of all that was captured to him, which is very interesting because this comes up in Hebrews. In the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, the Hebrew writer makes a big point of how even Abraham, who was Abram at that time, paid tithes unto this priest of God.
So, I guess my question would have been, what would have happened? I mean, would it have been the same had Abraham chosen? Like what you said,
Because
Abraham
it says here in 8, the Jordan Valley was a wealthy area and it was invaded by fierce warriors, where Lot took. So I'm wondering, because he chose that wealthy, but what you're saying,
yeah, Abram gave him that. Abram gave him the choice and said, "Which one do you want?" And he saw that, and he went to what was most desirable to the eye.
But there were other problems, as we later will find out in one of the other stories, that the cities were very wicked. And there'll be another story of what happens to Lot because of the wickedness of the cities. But that's coming up in the future.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, yeah.
But about the promise, what was the promise? God promises.
To count the stars, and then so shall be your descendants, right?
All his descendants,
It's impossible to count them. In another place he says, like the sands on the seashore.
Yep.
Now, we did this in a class one time. Somebody just took 1 teaspoon of sand, dust, dirt, and poured it out and said, okay, now count that. Well, you cannot. There is so much in that one little teaspoon. You cannot count it.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the stars or the total grains on the whole seashore. It's innumerable, beyond your ability to count. And that's what he said, your descendants are going to be like that. The other thing is very interesting. He says, and then Abram believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And this is also referred to several times in the New Testament about how Abram didn't do everything quite righteous. He did a lot of good things. He did believe God and followed him. But like the rest of us, he was somewhat imperfect, and they tell a few things that he did that was not quite right. The Bible tells both the good and the bad that people do. But it says he believed God, and this was counted to him as righteousness. And that's why he's also frequently called Father of the Faithful.
Interesting. I did not get that on the first read through.
Right? Yeah, I think it's a longer story for us to digest.
Yes, there's a lot in this particular story.
Yes, and so if you'd like to hear a more in-depth view on this story, don't forget 625 East Sam Houston. We're waiting for you.
And far.
In FAR.
Yeah.
Name of the channel, COC in FAR. Guess what? We're in FAR. I think that's about it for this one. Anything else we want to bring up? Alrighty. Then thank